Hello, everyone. Um, so I'm here today to share my story. Um, Unfortunately, with my story, I lost my husband to suicide in 2018. We were married for almost 29 years. I was 49 years old. Didn't expect to be a widow at that age. He, Marcel struggled for a lot of years with mental illness, anxiety, depression. And it's funny how, now that I look back and see certain things um that kind of all come together. Marcel was sexually abused when he was 8 years old. And this Unfortunately, this abuse happened by a priest, and it continued for about, I think it was 4 to 5 years. He never told anyone, or he didn't tell me. I found out in, let me think, probably was about in our 24th year of marriage, that he had the courage to come forward and talk to me about it. And, I asked him, like, Why didn't you tell me sooner?" And he said he was scared that I wouldn't believe him. He was scared that I would leave him. And so you just think all that years carrying that inside of you and not telling anyone what that does to you, which, I mean, in my mind now explains the mental illness, it explains the depression, the anxiety. I can remember certain things triggering him. I can remember how he would almost be like a Jekyll and Hyde situation, where he would almost, in the snap of a finger, turn into a different person, and you're just like, "What is going on?" Um, but like I said, it all makes sense. Anyway, on the day that Marcel took his life, unfortunately, it was my middle son that had found him. I was out of town, and he had hung himself. And my son had called me. Wasn't in our house; it was in a vacant house. Um, that he had done this, and my son had called me and was hysterical. And anyway, I had to drive 2.5 hours to finally get there. My sister had drove me, and that was probably the longest ride of my life. Um, and I mean, the things that are going through your head is like guilt. Why did I go that weekend? Why didn't I stay home that weekend? Why did my son find him? Why couldn't I find him? What's this going to do to my son? What's this going to do to us? All these things are going through your head. And then you're just praying that, okay, hopefully, maybe. This is a mistake somehow. Anyway, um, he was brought up in a very Catholic religion. And my fear was that, okay, like, is Marcel okay? Is he okay on the other side? Is he safe now? And so I decided in 2020 to go see a medium. And I did. I'll be, totally honest. I had my reservations about going to see a medium. I had never seen one before, and I wasn't sure. And my daughter had gone to see a medium. I think it was probably about 4 months after Marcel had passed away. And she just said to me, she goes, Mom, I think this is really something you need to do. She goes, I think it's going to help put you at ease, she said. She goes, it's helped me immensely. My daughter was pregnant with her first child when Marcel passed away. And, you know, a little blessing came out of it. We had a granddaughter that was born 4 weeks later, um, which, of course, was happy and sad. But anyway, back to the mediumship. So I did. I went to see a medium. It's been about 10 months, I would say, after Marcel passed away. And this lady was spot on with everything. Like, I was giving her nothing. I was like, "Nope. If if you are who you say you are, you're gonna tell me." And man, there was stuff she told me that nobody knew. So I was like, "Okay, this is something." And it just gave me comfort because she told me Marcel was good, Marcel was okay, Marcel was happy, Marcel was free, and that he just wanted me to know that, and that, um, he was sorry for everything that had happened, and he was sorry for how he left, but how he said he felt he had no other option. And going back in the first few months after Marcel had passed away, when I came home, first of all, his clothes, were by his bed, pair of jeans and a t-shirt, and I did not move that. I would vacuum around it. I wasn't gonna move that. It was probably about 4 months after, um, I decided, "Okay, I think it's time that I need to wash these clothes and put them away." And in that 4-month period, I would have lights that would come on in the house. I would shut the garage light off, go up to bed. As I'm going up the bed, I can see the window in the garage, and the light would be back on. My children are all grown, and so in the basement, the light would be on in the bathroom every now and then. I went on a holiday with my sister about 2 months after Marcel had passed away, and the first night I came back home from my holiday, when I got up in the morning, all the lights were on in the kitchen. So I'd mentioned this to my medium, and I said, "The day that I put those clothes away, the lights stopped." And she said, "That was because he you were giving him permission, that it was okay for him to go. That you were giving him permission to go on." And I would have never believed someone telling me that before until I went to see her. And so this is kind of where my spirituality journey started. Um, she said something to me that Marcel had always said to me. Marcel had always said to me, "Laura, you need to expand your wings. You need to be that butterfly and you need to fly." He would always tell me that. And I never knew. It's like, well, I'm working. Like, I'm happy. I'm a mom, I'm busy, busy, busy. But he was meaning me, not the mom, not the worker, Lori, me. And my medium said this to me. Her name is Taylor. She said this to me. "Marcel wants you to spread your wings. He says it's time for you to spread your wings." And I was like, "Holy crap. This is true. This is it." From there, she encouraged me to do some reading on mediumship. She said, "You are an empath." And she said, "You probably have bouts of anxiety." And she asked me, she says, do you have a lot of problems like, stomach issues or anything with your fertility issues or anything, with your reproductive system?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "That's because you're trying to hold all that. You're trying to hold things in all the time, and you need to channel that out." She said, and she says, "You're an empath, so you feel a lot." She said, "You feel a lot of energy from other people, and you have to learn how to clear that." And I'm like, "Okay, this does make sense because I can read people in the room." And that just felt so freeing to know, okay, like, wow, this is kind of exciting. And so I decided to explore it a little more. And she did offer courses, and I did take them. And man, the things I learned, that how the choice is ours. We are in control of our own destiny. Um, I was currently still living in our house that we had raised our children. We had been in that house for 16 years. and, I was debating on selling, and, I did. I I sold my house. Um, After a couple years, I met someone and had the opportunity to move to Texas. He was transferred to Texas, and I owned a business, and so I sold my business, and I moved to Texas. That was really a struggle for me, big time struggle, because where I lived, I had my children, I had my grandchildren, I have 3 children. 2 of them have, their own families, and so I have 3 grandchildren. And, when she first kind of talked to me about this, when Taylor first talked to me that, "I see this happening for you, Lori, like, I see a move for you, and it's good, and I see someone else in your life, and he's gonna be good for you," and I'm like, "I can't do that. I can't, like, I have kids here, I have grandchildren here, like, how can I leave them? Like, their dad left. I have to fill that void for them." And after a lot of meditating and exploring and looking into this and really doing some growing, I realized that I can do this. This is what Marcel's talking about. This is time for you to spread your wings, Lori. So, okay. Um, Sold my business and I moved to Hockley, Texas, which is just, a little community outside of Houston. And it has been life-changing for me. I moved there in January, and, I have done a lot of healing. I didn't realize how much all of that Marcel had went through, how much that had affected me, how much I had PTSD, how I had triggers, and that I needed to heal, and that I needed to get out of where we had lived, where I had, come through the suicide, how I needed to get out of there because I always felt like everybody always saw me as the widow or the person that, well, that's the person that the wife, the ex-wife or the late wife that or the wife of the person that took his life, and I didn't wanna be labeled at that as that anymore. I didn't wanna be stuck in the everyday rut anymore. I didn't wanna be stuck in the rut of, "Okay, I'm gonna go to work, and I'm gonna come home, and I'm gonna, live my life alone, or I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life, and, it'll be okay, but it's not, you know, gonna be maybe all that great." I wanted more. I wanted to see what else there was out there. I raised my children and I have fantastic children and I have beautiful grandchildren. But I wanted to see what else there was out there for Lori. So I did. And there was tough days. Absolutely there was tough days. As my medium says, you got to peel that onion. It's hard peeling that onion some days. It's really hard because you got to bring all that junk up again and work through it. But, oh my gosh, when you can do that, and when you know that I have a great group of ladies that stand behind me, I can tell them anything and I am supported. That means everything. I know that I have the support there. So if I'm gonna crumble or if I'm gonna struggle some days, I just have to message them or call them or it's a little hard to meet because they were in Canada and I was in Texas. But I could call them over Zoom or FaceTime, whatever. They were there for me. They supported me 100% for what I was doing. I have grown so much from becoming this person in her shell that was scared to talk about it, that was scared to talk about what happened because I was scared to be labeled. There was other junk that went on along with it, and I'm not going to get into too much of that today. That'll be for another day. But It was bad stuff that had happened to us, and I it was hard for me to go out into the community to be seen. I was embarrassed. I was humiliated. I was in a really, really dark place. But because of what I had learned, what I had learned that in spirit with my spirituality, that there is so much more out there. It's not just this, what we are seeing. There's a lot more for you. And if whatever you want, it's yours. You have to decide if you want it. If you do want it, you need to claim that. You need to speak it, because if you speak those words, it will happen for you. And I have learned that over and over again these last few months. I was trying, for instance, to get as a Canadian citizen, in order to move down to the US. If you want to live there, you have to either be married to someone that is sponsored or to someone that isn't a US citizen. And honestly, right now, our situation, we aren't really sure if we want to get married. And I'm not going to get married just so that I can get sponsored. We get married because I want to get married and because that is a decision for that both of us want to enter into that. And so then the other thing is to be sponsored for a US work visa. I was told in the beginning that was very easy to attain. It was easy before COVID. It has not been easy. I have had multiple job offers, and it just always fell apart, always fell apart. This last one, just how this kind of all worked out for me, it was I applied for a position. I ended up finding out it ended up being someone that I know. He was my oldest son's best friend growing up. He is now the president of the company. We met for coffee. He started this company in Canada, has grown to the US. They are opening up a new office in Houston, and I am hired, and I am getting a US work visa. It all I was trying so hard to fit those pieces together and they weren't working. But once I kind of let go of that control, wow, everything just kind of started falling into place. And I am very bad for that, trying to take control of everything. And I think it is probably just because of, everything that happened. Getting back into, Marcel with his mental illness and everything that had happened to him. Um, I had said, like, how kind of situations would occur where, it would almost be like a Jekyll and Hyde situation. And when we would have conversations, he would almost um, accuse me of making things up or spinning the situation, which I learned later is gaslighting, which I learned is, a form of mental illness, which I believe all this stems from the abuse. Um, And so when you find all these things out, when you have been married for 20 some years, yeah, I was mad. I was mad at him. I was too afraid to tell him that though, because I was scared he was going to take his life. And so I don't really some of the things that he did and I was too scared to find out why. And I wish now I would have asked, that because I felt so much of my life was a lie when you find out these things that you have been married for, like I said, 20 some years, and then you find all this stuff out. And you're like, holy crap, like I was married for you for that long and I didn't know all this. Like, what else don't I know? Like, what, like, why you feel so betrayed? Um, and then when they take when they take their lives, I had a lot of guilt to heal from that as well. And I'll apologize in advance. Sorry if I'm jumping all over the place, but things are just kind of coming to me here. um I had a lot of guilt. I had a lot of guilt for Marcel taking his life and me not being at home. And I had to work through that guilt. And I will tell you today, I finally don't feel responsible for his death. I did when I left for Texas. And I felt guilty for leaving because I felt that I was the reason that Marcel took his life. And I am now leaving my children. And I don't feel that way anymore. I am now showing my children that, you know what? Bad things happen, but you have a choice. It's going to be hard, but if you just even try and put a baby step in forward and want more in your life and work towards that, it'll happen for you. I don't know when that'll happen. I don't know if it'll be today. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow or if it's going to be next week, but I know it'll happen. But you have to make that decision for yourself. And so I know that I have now shown my children those choices that you can make. And I know that I am also helping them heal from, generations of this is how it should be. This is how you do it. Not saying that, you know, my parents were not how can I say like big religious believers or strict with me. I had a fantastic childhood. I did. I had wonderful parents. And their thing with religion was that's everybody's choice. That's an individual choice, and you shouldn't make that um, be pushing that on other people. And I think that's where it was kind of a little bit intimidating with my husband's family because they were very strong Catholic people, and that's where I, had the fear of because there that belief is if you take your life, you go to hell. And that's what I was scared of. I was scared he wasn't safe. And I was like, all these years here that he suffered all that trauma. And then for him to take his life and then end up in something worse is horrible. So that was so freeing to hear that no, that is not true. That is not true at all. Marcel is safe. Marcel is happy. Marcel has for him to make that decision to show, um, other people when he started coming forward with the abuse, um, he did try and talk to some of his friends, and they were honestly very, very supportive of him when he came forward of the abuse, but he was so ashamed that he told them once but never wanted to talk about it again because he was ashamed. He felt that it was something he did to deserve that, which is absolutely ridiculous. Nobody deserves that. I miss him. I miss him every day. I am so thankful, though, that I have been given an opportunity to be able to, I guess, kind of start over a new life and to be the person I'm with is very supportive of me, is very supportive of um, me wanting to spread my wings. And I've started writing a book. I haven't completed the book, so I'm a author in progress. Um, but to have that support at that end really means a lot to me as well. Me writing that book has been so freeing. It's a struggle in some areas because you're starting to live with that trauma again, but unfortunately, I think that's how we kind of have to heal as well as you kind of have to go through that trauma again in order to be able to heal. That has been really good for me. And then I've also started life coaching, which I thoroughly enjoy, especially in the times that we're in right now. Like the world just seems so chaotic and there's so much going on. But there's a lot going on that we don't see and we don't understand, And we have to I think there's a veil that's kind of being lifted here. And as you know, a very wise woman has said to me, she says, I believe that good will always prevail over evil. And so she said, like, even though you're seeing maybe a lot of evil, she says, going on, she says, good will prevail. She said, she goes, and she says, I think you get that. She says, where you are right now, she says, with your beliefs, she says, I think you've grown a lot. So she says, you're understanding that. And I totally do. I totally do. I get where that's all coming from, and I think we all have a story to tell. And I think it's important that we all tell that story, especially as women, um, because sometimes we almost feel overshadowed by men in our lives that, well, he did this, so, I'm going to support him and I'll just, kind of follow in his footsteps, but I'm going to be the supportive wife. And that's great, and that's good enough for me, and that's who I'll be. And I was that way for a while, but you lose yourself. You lose who you are. And I'm finding myself again, and I'm finding who Lori is, and Lori has changed a lot. And my kids have seen that as well. They're just like, "Mom, like, you're so happy now," and you seem so different. Like you just have like a glow to you, and it's just like you have a different energy to you. And you're so positive now. And they said, like, we're really happy for you. And it's hard. And my kids did, not gonna lie, they did guilt me a bit about me leaving. But now that they see the good place that I'm in, they are happy for me. And they're even considering on maybe making a move to be closer to me, which is wonderful. I think that would be great. Um, Also in the last year, I lost my mom. She would have been 90 years old. And that was also another big deciding point for me because up until that point, oh yeah, I had made that decision. My house was on the market, my business was on the market, I was selling, I was moving, blah, blah, blah. And then my mom passed away. When she passed away, I was like, what am I doing? I can't go. Family's everything. How can I leave now? And then I had a conversation with Taylor again, and she's like, Lori, your mom is now almost living through you because your mom never spread her wings. She stayed in her rut. And she is so excited for you and your new journey. And she wants you to do this because she wants to live this through you, Lori. She does not want her death to be you stopping this. And I could feel that. I could feel that with my mom. And many times, I would look in the mirror and I could see almost my mom's reflection coming back. It's like, okay, mom, yeah, you're right. You're right. And I think that's the generation thing where, you get caught up on, well, this is how it was always done and this is how we always need to do this. But really, that's not true. Sometimes you have to step out and you have to be the first one to make that change. And that change is really hard and really difficult because sometimes you don't have maybe all everyone on board with you. But as long as you have that group of supportive people behind you, even if it's one or two people, but as long as you have those people, that's what you need. And that's what I had. And that made such a big difference. And the rest will fall into place. And the rest is still falling into place for me. When I started my life coaching, that's kind of what I said. I said, like, you have to realize when you make a decision for your life to be better, it's not that it's going to be this magic light switch and you know every day is going to be glorious and it's going to be sunshine and ponies and nothing bad's ever going to happen to you again. Not true. Life happens. Things happen. Bad things happen. Bad moments happen. But because bad moments happen doesn't mean it have to be a bad day. Or if a bad day happens, it doesn't mean it has to be a bad life. You decide what you want. Do you want that to dictate the rest of your life? Do you want to be miserable for the rest of your life? I know at after about a year and a half after Marcel had passed away, I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life alone. Now that doesn't mean that maybe other people that are widows that they want to be alone. That's fine, but you decide that for yourself. I made that decision for me because I wanted to share my life with someone else. I had a lot of living to do. I wanted to travel. I had a lot of places I wanted to see. I had a lot of things I wanted to do. I love golfing. I wanted to go golf more. I wanted to go watch more hockey. I wanted to go sightsee. I wanted to try new things. I wanted to live in new areas. I'm doing all that now. And I still have bad moments. I still have bad days, but I'm not going to have a bad life because I've made that decision. And I think that's really important to understand that. And I'm really, really happy I made that decision to explore more. I'm really happy that I took that step and I went to see a medium and I listened to my daughter because if I wouldn't have done that, I think I would have still been stuck in the same rut. And I don't know if I would have met the person I had met. I don't know. I I think Lori would have looked really different if she wouldn't have decided to take that chance and take that step. I don't think it would be the Lori that you would see sitting in front of you here today in front of this mic saying, "You are so worth it. You are so worth it. And don't let anyone tell you different." Please follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is shoelover029.